Welcome to Just Top 10, and today we'll be counting down the top 10 most famous serial killers in the world.
The first time I did a shot of dope, it was the best feeling I ever had in my life. And the first time I killed somebody, it was such a rush.
The world has known many serial killers. The list of such people who have committed inhumane crimes is endless, but then there are some who have actually stolen the spotlight for the hideous crimes committed against humanity. Here are top 10 most famous serial killers in the world.
Got her a glass of water, comforted her a little bit, and then I went ahead and tied her up, and then put a bag over her head and strangled her.
But before starting the video, be sure to subscribe to never miss out on any of our videos. Number 10. Aileen Wuornos, the Monster.
Let me do this thing over one more time because I know you guys pre-tape and you clip and stuff.
Right.
Her story allowed Charlize Theron to win an Academy Award. She played Aileen in the 2003 movie Monster. While working as a prostitute, Aileen killed 7 men in Florida for their money and confessed to shooting them, claiming all of them had either raped or attempted to rape her.
To me, this world is nothing but evil, and all of us are full of evil one way or another.
She died in 1992 by lethal injection.
And I cannot go in the execution chamber and be executed under the devil. I have to come clean and cleanse my spirit in the name of Jesus Christ.
Number 9. Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. He proved you can get away with murder. For a while, Ridgway was violent in his youth. At age 16, he stabbed a 6-year-old who survived. He eventually began frequenting prostitutes despite unwavering religious beliefs. In fact, many of his murder victims from the 80s and 90s were prostitutes or runaways whom he picked up, had sex with, strangled, then dumped near the Green River. After being suspected and cleared early in the investigation, Ridgway was finally arrested in 2001. He then confessed to 71 unconfirmed murders and was sentenced to 48 consecutive life terms in 2003. Number 8. The Zodiac Killer. The killer fashioned this name for himself in taunting letters he sent to the Bay Area press. He left ciphers to be decoded, and out of the 4 he sent, only 1 was definitely solved. The killer operated in California in the late 1960s and early 1970s. His last letter said, Me 37 and SFPD, San Francisco Police Department 0. He claimed to have killed 37 victims, but the newspapers confirmed only 7. The case file is still open. Number 7. Dennis Rader, BTK Killer.
Got her a glass of water, comforted her a little bit, and then I went ahead and tied her up, and then put a bag over her head and strangled her.
On the exterior, Rader's life was normal. He was married, had kids, and held down steady jobs. However, in 1974, the BTK, or Blind Torture Kill, killer began murdering people in Kansas by various means. Shortly thereafter, he taunted authorities with the letters that described his crimes. Rader's last known murder was in 1991, and over a decade later, the case went cold with no suspect. However, in 2004, BTK resumed communications and made a number of mistakes that got him caught. Rader was sentenced to 10 consecutive life sentences with no possibility for parole for 175 years. Number 6. Donald Henry Gaskins, the Hitchhiker's Killer. Gaskins has claimed to have killed between 80 to 90 people by torturing and mutilating them. He started killing in 1969, picking up hitchhikers on the coastal highways of the American South. A criminal associate witnessed him killing 2 young men and confessed to the police. He was sentenced to death, which was later turned to life imprisonment without any parole. Gaskins added another murder to his name and became the only man to have ever killed an inmate on death row. Number 5. Ed Gein, the Mad Butcher. This Wisconsin native inspired not 1 but 3 of the most famous movie killers. The effeminate Gein grew up with a deep attachment to his abusive mother, and he eventually decided he wanted to become a woman. Only 3 murders were actually attributed to him, but he was terrifying because he robbed graves and murdered in order to form a woman's suit he could wear. When authorities searched his house after his capture, they found paraphernalia made of human body parts littering his home. Gein died of cancer while incarcerated for 1 murder in a mental institution in 1984. Number 4. Ted Bundy, the Crazy Necrophile. Ted Bundy was an American serial killer, kidnapper, rapist, and necrophile. He operated in various states in the USA and confessed to killing 30 women.
I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me. And without exception, every one of them was deeply involved in pornography without question.
He revisited crime scenes and indulged in sexual acts with the corpses. Bundy decapitated at least 12 victims and kept their heads as trophies in his apartment. Aged 42, Bundy died on the electric chair in 1989. His own defense attorney said Ted was the very definition of heartless evil. Number 3. Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee Monster.
Human mind can conceive.
And what we are waiting for now are the actual charges, the information, the criminal complaints that will be presented from the Milwaukee Police Department and the DA's office, and that information will be then translated and criminal charges will be.
Dahmer first became known to police as a registered sex offender. However, the murders began in 1978. Dahmer often picked up his male victims in gay bars and had sex with them before drugging and killing them. When the police finally searched his apartment, they found decomposing corpses and body parts, as well as photos of his victims in various states of torture. Dahmer is also said to have engaged in both necrophilia and cannibalism. In 1992, he was sentenced to 15 life terms, but he was beaten to death by a fellow inmate 2 years into his term. Because of the disturbing nature of his crimes and his outwardly articulate and calm demeanor, Jeffrey Dahmer is the worst serial killer of all time.
I should have stayed with God. I tried and failed and created a Holocaust.
Number 2. John Wayne Gacy, the Burial King. Gacy operated between 1972 and 1978 in Chicago, Illinois. He sexually assaulted and murdered 33 teenage boys and young men. Gacy would lure his victims to his home with the promise of work or money before murdering them by strangulation using a tourniquet. He buried 26 of his victims in the crawl space under his house and later disposed the bodies off in the Des Plaines River. Convicted of 33 murders, Gacy was sentenced to death and spent 14 years on death row before he was executed by lethal injection on May 10, 1994.
What was your initial emotional response?
Just to throw them down the crawl space, get rid of them. Even once you bury somebody, it was already gone.
Number 1. Tommy Lynn Sells, the Brutal Texan.
The first time I did a shot of dope, it was the best feeling I ever had in my life. And the first time I killed somebody, it was such a rush.
Tommy Lynn Sells is perhaps the most dangerous Texan in history. He claimed to have killed at least 70 people. He brutally murdered people between 1985 and 1999, including stabbing a 13-year-old girl 16 times. Sells broke into the bedroom of a 10-year-old girl, stabbing her and left her to die. But despite her injuries, she managed to survive and gave a detailed description of Sells to the police. He was sentenced to death and remains on death row in a high-security prison in Texas.
When you look at me, you look at hate.
When I look at you, I look at hate.
When you look at me, you know what hate is.
Thank you guys for watching. If you liked our video, then hit the subscribe button to never miss out on any of our videos. See you next time.